Council members, we're going to reconvene on page 3, please. Item 2A, regular council meeting minutes, consensus for July 14, 2025. Do we have consensus?
Yes.
We have consensus. Thank you. Now, if you look on your agenda, please. Item 3, public hearing, page 8, 3A. Item 3A. Okay, the pecuniary interest for municipal councillors, Section 172 of the Municipal Government Act says that you may not take part in the discussion and decision-making on any matter in which you have a pecuniary interest. The legislation attempts to ensure that you are not discriminated either for or against by virtue of your membership on council. If you have a pecuniary interest, you are to disclose that you have an interest and its general nature. You are to abstain from any discussion of the matter and from voting. You are to leave the room until the matter has been dealt with, and you should make sure that your abstention is recorded in the minutes. You are not to be discriminated against and are entitled to participate in a public hearing as a member of the public. CEO Williams?
Thank you, Mary Dahl. A clerical error that Janie has pointed out to me. The bylaw today for this rezoning concerns a lot on 49th Avenue, as pictured on the screen, a former recycling center lot. It's to rezone it from industrial to commercial and to add a warehousing use to this parcel. In the paper, administrative error on our part, it says to add a data center use. That was a clerical error from, I believe, the June, perhaps earlier meeting when we rezoned the former Sundial parcel to include a data center use, which was passed. For general interest, a data center use wouldn't work in this area. The industrial requirements around water, power, and even fiber optic internet just don't exist on this street, for example. So that's why the Sundial facility does meet a data center use, for example. This lot would not. So a total error on our part. In the newspaper advertisement, it says data center. It should be replaced with warehousing. Important clarification before we open the public hearing on that matter. Happy to take any questions from council, though, if you need more clarity on it.
Council have any further questions to ask the CEO prior to me declaring public hearing open? There seems to be none, CEO Williams, so I will move forward at this time. I declare the public hearing for bylaw number 2025-12 open. I will now ask the, who are we calling up to? Kyle. I'll ask Kyle, the municipal land use planner, to approach the podium. Thank you. Mr. Sloan?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Just to provide some background on this bylaw amendment to the land use bylaw, the subject parcel is located at Lot 5, Block 8, Plan 0814642, also known as 4920A 49th Avenue. It's currently zoned light industrial. Bylaw 2025-12 proposes to rezone this parcel to central commercial to align with the Uptown Area Redevelopment Plan, which identifies this as future commercial land. The bylaw also proposes to add warehousing as a permitted use in the C1 district for this parcel only, not for the rest of the district. The bylaw was given first reading on July 14th, 2025. Notice of this public hearing was circulated to adjacent property owners and advertised in the newspaper and on the town website. No correspondence either for or against the proposed amendment has been received. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will explain the procedure to be followed. Presentations before council be brief and to the point, limited to 5 minutes. Council shall not allow cross-examination of persons giving information, and it will not be necessary for the persons giving information to verify his or her qualifications. Council may ask questions of speakers after each presentation for clarification purposes. No debating or questions from the floor will be allowed. No written or verbal submissions will be received by council after the public hearing is closed. Persons addressing council will state their name and their address, indicate if they are speaking on their own behalf or for a client, company, or citizen group. I will now call for the first time for those in support of the proposed bylaw to come forward to make a presentation. I will call for a second time for those in support of the proposed bylaw to come forward to make a presentation. Thank you, sir. And if you could please state your name.
Sean Waite.
And who you're representing.
I represent a gallery of floors in Uptown Olds.
Thank you. Go ahead, sir.
We are in the process of purchasing the land to build a warehouse on the old waste transfer site, or the recycling transfer site. We are wanting to use, build a couple extra bays to allow for warehouse leasing in the space. We do require it to move to C1 to allow us to build closer to the property line on the back. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I will ask a second time then for those in support. Very good. Call the first time for those opposed to the proposed bylaw to come forward. A second time for those opposed. I will call for the first time for those persons that may be deemed affected by the proposed bylaw. And I will call for the second time for those deemed affected. Very good. I will ask now my council members for any comments. Council has no comments to suggest from here. I will ask for final comments from our Kyle, Mr. Sloan. Nothing further? Very good. I declare the public hearing closed. Please move back to page 8 in your agenda, please. Bylaw 2025-12. I would ask council, please, for second reading as presented. I will go with Councillor Ryan.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move the bylaw 2025-12 be given second reading as presented.
Thank you, Councillor Ryan. Those in support? That is carried. Third and final reading, please. I did see Councillor Wilson's hand up previously. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I make the motion that bylaw 2025-12 be given third reading as presented.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Yes, I was just going backward. Thank you very much. And now I call for the vote. Those in favor? Oh, you would like to speak? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I just want to make a quick comment here about the great opportunities we have here for growing our business. As a small business owner, I think Gallery of Floors, moving and staying in town, growing the town, growing their business in town is a great win for the town. And we should celebrate those types of wins when we see our local businesses, especially a business that's been in here as long as you guys have, is growing in our town rather than vacating the town like some other businesses choose to do. So I just want to applaud that move and the fact that we're trying to work with you guys to do that sort of thing. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Now I'll call for the vote. Those in favor? That is carried. I concur with your comment. Moving down to delegations, please. Page 12 of your agenda. This is development permit DP 25-128. And I'll turn it over to Nate. And he's our development officer, Nathan Hill. Floor is yours.
Gonna work. Sorry, just acclimating my materials here. I received a letter this morning that I'm gonna pass to Marcy to hand out to council.
It's like you don't have much space anymore compared to what we used to have for you.
Yeah, it's a bit cramped, but that's all right. We'll make it work. All right. Excuse me. This application is for an 8-plex at 46th, 38th, 51st Street. This parcel is designated R3, where multiplexes are permitted use. The reason this application is before council is because there's an application for a variance of over 15% for a driveway of 22 meters. Our standard is 10. The purpose of a variance is to accommodate the 16 parking spaces that are required for this application. This morning, administration has received 3 comments opposed to this application. If you'll excuse me while I grab my notes. These concerns included that there isn't enough parking compared to intensive uses in the area. I would note this application complies with our minimum parking standards. There were concerns about infrastructure capacity. I ran this application by our operations department, who don't have any concerns about infrastructure. And then there were other concerns that the application does not comply with portions of the East Olds area redevelopment plan, including the character and the density of the application, and that it would set the bar from future high density developments in this area. We acknowledge that this application does not comply with portions of the East Olds area redevelopment plan. However, those portions that are a should, and because this application is a permitted use, it is not wholly constrained by those provisions. So, as such, this application is before you from a variance to a driveway width, and I would leave my comments at that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hill. I will open the floor up at this time for any questions from my council. Okay, I will move over to Councillor Walsh.
Yeah, thank you for that. What is the total width of that lot on the street side?
Excuse me, I was a 30.48 meter frontage.
Any further questions? Yes, Councillor Ryan.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. And I was just wondering, because usually these are highlighted in red or circled or whatever. Not exactly sure which property this was that we're talking about. And I mean, I can probably figure it out myself, but I was wondering if you wouldn't mind pointing it out on the map, this map, if you can, Marcy, page 14.
Absolutely. It's on a vacant parcel labeled 4634 in the center of the screen.
So
To the
4634.
To the east, Marcy. East.
So that big lot there.
Yeah, that one.
Okay. And sorry, supplemental. Oh no, so
Absolutely,
go
continue,
ahead and-
continue.
it's not supplemental at all, actually. I was just wondering if you had, what else is around there? Because usually we see something about, what else is around there for development, duplexes, fourplexes already on that particular roadway? How is this zoned? I'm not exactly sure how it looks.
Yeah, absolutely. The entirety of the block this parcel is on is designated R3, with the exception of being brokers at the end of the block, which is highway commercial, I believe. I believe it's predominantly single family in that area.
Anything further, Councillor Ryan?
Just wondering, so you're saying that the parcel with 4614 with all the numbers there, or is that a fourplex?
I believe so, yes.
Thank you.
Councillor Wilson?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl, and I will be very brief in my comment, given Mr. Hill's comment around the fact that this is an R3 property and the multi-unit dwelling complies with that R3 zoning. But I do certainly empathize with the homeowners and adjacent land and homeowners. Mr. Hill touched on the issue around the integrity and character and maintaining that in East Olds. East Olds certainly a very unique area. And we talk about, and I certainly support smart development, and to me, smart development, part of that is the integrity of the area. But again, having said that this is an R3 zoned area and an 8-plex complies with that, I'm not sure how much wiggle room we have in that area. I'm torn on this, the parking width variance. And again, I'm not sure what options we have. We have, and you hear concerns expressed by residents around on-street parking. So here, the developer is looking to address that by creating spots off-street, albeit it'll be a bit of a cement jungle perhaps. But I'm not sure what the alternative is other than, given R3 is compatible, or this development's compatible with R3, I'm not sure what the alternative is other than to have more on-street parking for the 8-plex. So, but I am conflicted, for sure.
Thank you very much. Who was next? Oh, Councillor Daly, and then we'll go to Councillor Cummings.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. When I saw this and saw the zoning of R3, I was very much in the same thought wavelength as Councillor Wilson in that R3, and I'm not disputing the 8-plex being a legitimate development for this area. The thing that I see is that they are, the developer themselves, I believe, are taking advantage a bit of our variance here, in that they are taking and they're calling it a driveway, but it's actually a parking lot on the front of their building. And I feel that the way that this community has supported and protected their area structure plan, that this does not fit into their area structure plan. And I feel that having those 8 vehicles coming in and off of the street there on a residential street may be a bit of a overwhelming for regular residential traffic there as well. It's going to make it a lot busier on the corner of that intersection, I believe. And so with that, I don't think I can approve this development going through. I cannot support it, sorry.
So Cummings, and then we'll go back to Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. area redevelopment plan for East Olds is the plan set up by the citizens through committee with lots of consultation that converts this lot to an R3 lot. Simple as that, right? That the community at the time when they created the ARP wanted this to be R3. We have a review of that ARP next year. I asked for that last year to be in the 2026 budget because of concerns from the local community members that the ARP may be out of touch. But right now, that's all we have. We have that plan that the citizens of that area developed for us and made this R3. To answer some of the questions that have been brought up about parking, in this area, we also have some small apartment buildings. If this was an 8-unit apartment building, nobody would bat an eyelash at there being a parking lot, because that's what apartment buildings have, parking lots, same as the small apartment buildings that are on the 2A side of this particular block. Not this block, but this neighborhood. We have several apartment buildings and they have parking lots. So I'm just trying to rationalize the differentiation here between a large driveway to park cars and a parking lot in an R3 development, and why we're nitpicking about one or the other one. If the developer turned around and said, I'm not gonna make an 8-plex, I'm gonna make an 8-unit apartment building here, this wouldn't be a discussion, it'd be a parking lot. Because he's making an 8-plex, we're having a discussion about parking. So I'm a little confused about that. I don't see where the differentiation is in the structure. Your own private entrance versus a common entrance is the only difference between an 8-plex and an apartment building. So I'm just confused about the parking side of things. So until we get a new plan, I don't see how we can justify turning down a development that actually fits the ARP. The adjustment that we've asked for is simply to allow for parking off the street, which everybody wants. They don't want street parking. This seems to be a very good solution to that. And again, if this was the other option in R3 as an apartment building, we wouldn't be having this discussion. So I'm a little confused about that.
I'd ask the gallery to please keep quiet while council's talking on making decisions. Thank you very much. Excuse me, we have some etiquette and we do care for the quality of what our staff is trying to share with us, and we're trying to absorb that, but thank you very much. Councillor Wilson and then Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl, and through you to Mr. Hill, I have a question, and depending on Mr. Hill's response, I may have a follow-up or a supplemental, but my question through you to Mr. Hill is council being asked here today to adjudicate on simply the parking variance? And if the parking variance is denied, this development, because it complies with R3 zoning as a multi-dwelling unit, would still go ahead pending the developer coming up with an alternative solution. But all we're really debating here is the variance to the parking, or is it beyond that?
Kind of a little bit of both. So this application complies with all standards except for a driveway width. Now a driveway width variance is necessary for it to comply with our parking standards, and if it can't get that, then it can't get the parking, and this application won't work. So it's council's prerogative here is to consider the driveway width variance, but the driveway width variance is inextricably attached to the application overall.
Supplemental, Councillor Wilson?
Yes.
Okay, go
Well,
ahead.
it's a
Councillor
supplement-
Blatz is next.
Thank you. It's a supplemental comment, and it piggybacks on Deputy Mayor Daley's comment that I'm leaning towards not approving this. And in response to Councillor Cummings' comment, again, I advocate for smart development. Smart development, if I'm allowed a little bit of latitude here, to me, smart development crosses a variety of boundaries, certainly tying into our existing infrastructure versus having to go out and build in an undeveloped area where you've got to build that infrastructure both above and below ground. So this, to some extent, meets my need around smart development, which we need. A development like this is certainly going to bring property tax dollars, which this town definitely and desperately needs revenue. But to me, a definition of smart as well touches on the integrity the character, the DNA of the neighborhood, if you like. And with all the potential solutions and alternatives out there, whether it's tiny homes, garden suites, laneway suites, a twoplex, a fourplex with a secondary suite, I just struggle with the composition and makeup of this eightplex within the East Olds and its existing structure and characteristics. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl, for that and the opportunity to speak. Through you to Mr. Hill. So if we decide today, per se, not to approve a wider driveway, because that's really all we're here for, it is zoned to build an eightplex if they so desire, then that would indicate that they may be forced then to park along the side street, which then could, again, too, raise a concern by the residents stating that there's an awful lot of parking on street, correct? Maybe that's hypothetical. You don't have the answer for that, and maybe you can't answer that question. But I mean, that's the options that we're presented with here today. I'm on the fence with this one as far as a decision about the variance for the driveway, whether it's a parking lot or an enlarged driveway. But if you look, precedent has been set further to the east, right behind Bean Brokers. There's a fourplex there that the frontage of that all seems to be all driveway as well. So, you know. It kind of becomes a bit of an issue here because my mind has been.
Sorry, excuse me as I think a little bit here. If the application for the parking variance was refused, then we would take it back to the applicant and inform them as such, and they would have an appeal mechanism as well. We would give the applicant an opportunity to try to amend the parking plan to comply with our standards. Whether the project goes through or not would depend on if they're able to.
Yes, supplemental, Councillor Blatz, and then I see back to Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Dolan, through you to Mr. Hill again too. So if, like, hypothetically, this was a duplex and they could have two driveways in the front, which would comply with the width that they would normally have a driveway, could they build two separate driveways within the normal width? Then that would still create on-street parking, which wouldn't eliminate any of the issue at all. And that's one of the things I think most of us are concerned with in our areas, especially in residential areas. Parking is at a premium in most places. So I think that's one thing that we as council need to be very cognizant of. If he decides to go ahead even without the variance and build this eightplex, he could, he or she, whomever the developer is, would then be having on-street parking, which creates a whole new problem.
C.R. Williams.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. Just for clarity's sake, since the building is a eightplex, that means the minimum number of parking stalls is 2 per unit, so 16 parking stalls, which is a different formula, let's say our apartment building. So that means if anything outside the scope of administration's variance, which is only 15%, it would still come back to council if, say, this driveway with variance was disallowed, and they resubmit it, let's say, for a net parking space reduction on site. So 16 stalls is the minimum unless council decides to vary it essentially. Now, how this generally works, because you're right, this lot has been zoned R3 for at least 2014, probably a bit longer. This gentleman just purchased it. So a multi-family dwelling is going to be built there eventually. It just depends on the design to allow the parking stalls to be all on site. So, and that's something we can't answer right now. But just so council's aware, like this generally fits all of your bylaws except for the driveway width. So that's the topic at hand today.
The only public parking lot we have is really basically across from tracks from that area. Yeah. Okay, Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl, and through you to Mr. Hill. So, and further to Councillor Blatz's comment, you mentioned amend the parking plan or potentially amend the building plan itself, the development plan itself. And I certainly hear what the CAO says relative to, and again, as I said, R3, this complies. But again, when I layer on smart development in terms of the character of the neighborhood, to me, it falls a little short, especially in light of, as I said earlier, options for tiny homes, garden suites, laneway suites, or just a smaller footprint on this land. So, but that would be the other option, amend the parking or amend the development itself, correct?
Broadly speaking, yes. I'd be a little bit skeptical that even a fourplex could comply without a driveway width variance, just because it takes that much room to have the 4 cars that are necessary on either side. But broadly speaking, yes, that's correct.
Okay, Councillor Ryan.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. If we could take a look at page 15, I believe it is. I can't see the number because it's very small. It's the next page. That's it. That's the one I want to look at. So this is a corner lot, and he's proposing to put some, on that picture there, it looks like some landscaping is correct. And then, yeah, thank you very much. I just want to make sure that we have the whole picture. Okay. So I'm just quick question here. Is there, if you separate the parking, you've got 8 cars in a row there. If you separate it for 4 and 4 and move them over to the corners, is that against our bylaw? Do we have a restriction on how close we get to these corners, and that's the reason why he's done the 8 in front? And I'm assuming.
Yes. So for a multifamily development, if there's multiple driveways on a parcel, it must be at least 6 meters apart. I believe there's a distance from the corner of a parcel as well at an intersection. I don't have that at my fingertips, but yeah, that's a 3 meter setback off of the southwest corner.
So supplemental, Mayor. So if they moved those parking spaces, say they split them and had 4 and 4, and getting closer to the edge, would they even need a parking variance at that point, or a parking lot or driveway variances? Basically, it's a driveway variance.
If my mental math is correct, each of the driveways would need a variance to be 11 meters. That would be over our 10, but that's a 10%. And then there would probably be a variance of that 6 meter setback between them. So it would need a variance anyway. It's just a matter of how much it is. I don't know without doing the math.
Yeah, just a smaller variance is what you're saying.
Likely, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Well, I mean, it would the whole thing is that by the developer providing all of these parking spaces, it eliminates one of the biggest concerns we hear as councillors from people who live in East Olds is the fact that there's no parking on the streets. There's limited parking on the streets. And so this basically eliminates the fact that there'd be a crunch of cars parking on the street, is basically what he's done.
Just as a supplemental to my earlier answer, I suspect as well that he would have a harder time with landscaping if he separated the driveways, just because there isn't the boundary space.
Thank you. I'm looking around the table to see if council has any further questions. From Mr. Sloan? All right, thank you very much. Closing comments at all? No?
Nope, I believe everything was addressed, so thank you.
All right, so that takes us back to page 12 of your agenda, folks. With the recommendation, I would like to ask for a motion. Councillor Blatz?
I move that council approve development permit application DP 25-128 as presented, subject to the conditions listed in the attached draft development permit.
Thank you. We have no further comments. Yes, Councillor Walsh.
No, I won't be supporting this motion for the main reason that it is a parking lot just on the street. And that, to me, really changes the nature of the community when you start moving in that direction. And it's basically still residential, I agree. R3, it would be nice to have an 8-plex or an 8 apartment building there, but that type of parking right off the street, I can't support.
Thank you. I can't see Councillor Cummings. Do you have a last comment? Very good. All right, then. I'll call for the vote. Those in favor? Those opposed? Okay, that's defeated. Thank you very much for your time, Mr. Sloan, or Mr. Hill. We've got a lot of people. I'm looking at him and I'm looking at you. Thank you. We'll move down to page 45 now of the agenda. And I would ask at this time if our development officer, Nathan Hill, would there be a change in this address before we start this on page 45 for this development permit DP 25143?
Yes, that's correct. I had the incorrect address on the permit. The real address is on 5414 46th Street.
So if I would ask council please to note that this development permit address is 5414 46th Street, side variance of existing commercial building.
And I would ask, if approved, the draft development permit also be amended to the same effect. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Marcy, do you want me to wait for you, or just go? Okay. All right. This application is for 5414 46th Street. That parcel is designated highway commercial. The applicant is requesting approval of a variance for an existing building, which was noted on a compliance check as non-conforming. There's a setback of 3 meters to the property line. This building was constructed 0.58, which is an 81% variance. Administration has received no comments on this application, and I would note that I examined aerial imagery historically for this parcel, and it doesn't appear that the building was added to after construction. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will then ask council if you have any questions.
I have one.
Yes, go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Dolan. This is for my own curiosity, is that I remember this building being there forever, and this is the first time this has ever come up, that it's built like half a meter or just over half a meter from the property line?
It appears so, and for council's note, it was constructed in 1951.
Were you even born then? Okay, any further questions from council? Thank you for the update on the address, and I would ask for a motion, please, as amended. Okay, Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that council approve development permit application DP 25-143 as amended, subject to the conditions listed in the attached draft development permit.
Thank you, Councillor Blatz. I will now call for the vote. Those in favor? That is carried. Next item of business, please, page 57, item 4C, development permit DP 25-146, and this is for 47 Violet Close. Go ahead, Mr. Hill.
Excellent. Thank you once again. This application is for a driveway maximum width variance at 47 Violet Close. Our standard is that a driveway has to be under 60% of a frontage, which in this case would be 3.75 meters. When the duplex was originally constructed, a variance was approved, allowing the driveway to be 4.33 meters. The property was then sold to a new landowner who is now attempting to sell the property. I noted in a compliance check that the driveway was built wider than the approved variance, and it is constructed at 6.25 meters. We've received no comments on this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. I would open the floor to council if you have questions for our Mr. Hill. And sorry. Okay, so Deputy Mayor Daley and then Councillor Cummings.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. And through you to our development officer, is there any evidence that this driveway's been added on to since the original variance of 4.33 meters was approved way back when?
This is a relatively recent construction, and aerial images aren't taken often enough for us to have captured that. So I don't have an answer for you. Sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question, Deputy, and I'll move down to Councillor Cummings and then Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Along the same lines as Councillor Daley, when a building is, and correct me if I misunderstand how this is done. So the building is planned, the plan's approved, the building is constructed, and then an inspector from our organization goes and inspects it and approves that it had met the plan. I'm not a big fan of punishing the owner of a property because that process broke down. And without any ID that the owner themselves modified the driveway, which we can't seem to figure out one way or the other, I'll have to assume that it was done originally and we failed somehow in the inspection of the property. So I would certainly support this development permit being approved in retrospect, simply because it doesn't seem like they're doing anything malicious. It was an error on someone's part, either in the construction side or the approval side. Thank you.
Councillor Blatz?
Thank you, Mayor Daley, or Mayor Dahl. Sorry, my apologies. So this, from the looks of this and from the aerial view map, then this is like a cul-de-sac that's got very congested, very tight parking anyway. So along the lines of what Councillor Cummings has said, I mean, if it was done and poured, the only alternative then would be for them to dig up part of it. And I think that sort of defeats, I don't think it's an unfair punishment. And with them not having a lot of on-street parking, I can't really see why we wouldn't approve this, being that they're not the ones who constructed it. So to me, we don't punish them.
Thank you, Councillor Blatz. Councillor Wilson?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. Not really a question, but just a comment aligning with what my other colleagues have said. But I struggle with these because yeah, it's unfair to punish somebody. Certainly, if you go back to 1951, or even in this case. But I just wonder, how do we get a better grasp? Perhaps my question to either Mr. Hill or the CAO is, how do we get a grasp on some of these things going forward? This is, to me, the whole dilemma of permission or forgiveness. And we've had a few of these forgiveness type incidents. So is there a silver solution to this, or we just hope that people comply with our conditions of our permits?
Yeah, so since my tenure began here, at least, we now require that applicants hand in essentially an as-built drawing, and we confirm the measurements after construction. Now, a lot of those we capture that it's a few percentage points over. It happens often. Our hope is that we can address that when we review our land use bylaw, and we'll have more. It'll be a more suitable standard is the hope, and then it's easier to enforce because of that.
Councillor Ryan?
Thank you, Mandel. I agree about not punishing, but I'm not happy about this at all. I mean, originally, here's a developer that has come and they built the driveway. They asked for a variance, and now we're asking for another one. This is a second variance on this property. And I'm not exactly sure who did this, but we continue to, have these kinds of things come up, and it seems to me at some point we're going to have to say it no. Because, you talk about the last one, about the flavor of the community. This affects the flavor of the community too. All of a sudden, you've got a very tight, very small frontage in a cul-de-sac, and all they see is driveway in the front. That's really attractive. And then you're going to have people who have this extended driveway, and then they're parking trailers in there, they're parking motorhomes in there, they're parking excessive number of vehicles on there, 3 or 4. Who knows how many can fit onto a driveway? I don't know how long this driveway is. We don't have a picture of the house, so we can't tell how big the driveway is. But, at some point, we're going to have to say, you have to conform. These are our specs, and this is what we want. And this house isn't that old. I know, because this is a area where I live over in the Vistas, so these homes aren't that old. It's not like it was done in 1951. So, we're talking about protecting the flavor of a community, and this is an example of making a statement of having a concrete front. You don't have any grass left after you've got a parking lot or a driveway that's this big. So I'm not happy about this at all.
Thank you, Councillor Ryan. Councillor Cummings, before we get to you, Councillor Cummings, C.A. Williams.
Thank you. Just a bit of further context on this. So obviously it's a person purchasing the property who wasn't involved in the construction. So from administration's point of view, when we bring variances to council that we can't solve ourselves, certainly we look at community impact, usability. The green space obviously plays a role in stormwater mitigation. But we do try to defer on what's the most reasonable point of view from the homeowner in this regard, rip up a driveway or allow the variance. Now, you're right, this situation is unique. In regard to our inspection regime, looking back, this was inspected on December 31st of whatever given year. So when we do this, construction's year-round now, and snow-covered driveways, we sometimes can't get a proper measurement when we're doing the final building inspection. So these things, there's always some gray area when it comes to properly adjudicating, certifying, inspecting properties. And fortunately, this is a special case. Like usually it is a few feet or even less we run into when it comes to driveway widths in new communities, as it's a common error, honest mistake usually. This one is unique, and but overall, in administration's opinion, it's doesn't provide an overall negative impact to the surrounding community. In fact, providing this variance so they don't have to narrow their driveway, given it's a cul-de-sac, would provide just less congestion given the on-site parking potential. So hopefully that helps a bit.
Thanks. Councillor Cummings?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to agree entirely with Councillor Ryan about the whole process and the problems we're seeing. And we've seen a lot in the last couple of years specifically of these forgiveness issues coming back up. And I think that's actually a good sign. It's a sign that the robustness we built into with extra manning and extra staffing of the planning department, inspection department, has actually benefited us in the fact that we're finding these sites. We're seeing more and more of these things being found. The illegal suites is a good example that we're finding more of those and putting them into compliance. The building that we just reviewed a moment ago, we're seeing those, we're doing that. And it's a good sign that we are building more robustness and compliance, or robustness into our inspection and compliance system. So I think that's a very good thing in the long run. We're going to end up seeing more of these as we become more in tune with the reality that they exist and that they need to be fixed and corrected. And I agree with the CAO as well, that sometimes inspections are off a little bit here and there. That's to be expected in any industry. This one may be a little bit bigger than a little bit. when you look at the numbers, so I'm a little concerned about that. But I'm happy that we're seeing more of these, just as an indication that we are being better at the inspection process and at the compliance process in the long run.
Thank you for those comments, Councillor Cummings. Councillor Wilson.
Just a quick question for you to Mr. Hill. Remind me, how did this particular incident come to light? Was this homeowner driven or through our due diligence or a little bit of both? Thank you.
The homeowner applied for a compliance certificate. I noted it didn't comply, and then they applied.
Yes, past history again. And I agree 100% with the comments that we can't repeat history, but we can sure pay attention to it for sure. Any other comments? I would now call for a motion, please. Councillor Walsh.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that the council approve development permit application DP 25-146 as presented, subject to the conditions listed in the attached draft development permit.
Thank you, Councillor Walsh. I'll call for the vote. Those in favor? Those opposed? That is carried. Thank you. Page 68, please, of your agenda, and we will go to DP 25-162. Freestanding signs. Go ahead, Development Officer Hill.
Excellent. Thank you, Council. I have one more for you. This application is at 5260 65th Avenue. The parcel is designated R3. Council may remember administration recently approved an apartment building on this parcel. As per Schedule D, Section 8 of the Land Use Bylaw, no more than a single freestanding sign is allowed per parcel, with an exception for addressing and direction finding signs under a square meter. These signs are over a square meter and thus aren't exempt. The subject signs are for an entry point on the north and east, and an information sign near the door. We received no comments on this application, and yeah, thank you.
I'll open the floor to council. I noticed you had no responses, and thank you for sharing that. Do you have your hand up? Councillor Cummings.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a clarification on the one sign that on page 71 of the drawing. I get and fully understand the desire to have a sign at each entranceway into the property, considering there's different roads and not viewable from each other. That makes a lot of sense to me. But this other one that's by the back of the building, it's bigger than a meter? Because I think that's what your comment was, is that you can only have a sign that's one sign larger than a square meter. And this is a sign not affixed to the building itself? I mean, does that make it exempt if this sign were affixed to the building? As just saying, hi, here I am, this is the entranceway into the, whatever, wayfaring sign?
That would make it a fascia sign, which would not be subject to the freestanding sign maximum. That's correct. I don't know off the top of my head whether it would be exempt from any permit requirements, but it would be an administration approval if it did have to have a permit. So.
Okay, any further questions? All right, seeing none, I'd call for a motion, please. I believe Councillor Wilson had his hand up.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I make the motion that council approve development permit application DP 25-162 as presented, subject to the conditions listed in the attached draft development permit.
Thank you. One more question from Councillor Cummings.
Thank you. In our land use bylaw, the one that describes the whole purpose of signs and stuff like that, and considering that we're doing a land use bylaw review right now, would it be advantageous for us to include into the land use bylaw a situation like this? We don't have very many of them in the town of Olds, where a structure resides on two major streets like this that has entranceways, whether it's a business or a large residential complex like that, where having more than one sign makes sense. If you look at some of the larger retail developments that we have, like Cornerstone, for instance, has multiple signs on the property. It just makes sense to have multiple signs because they got multiple roadways coming into the property. So is this something we can look at the land use bylaw to amend the land use bylaw to allow for multiple signs at multiple entranceways on multiple roads going into a complex?
Short answer, yes, we've considered it. I received an initial copy of this application a month or two ago, and that brought on that issue to our attention because there are circumstances where it makes sense. I wish Kyle was here because I know we had that conversation, but I can't remember where we landed on it. But yeah, we did discuss it.
Well, that's good. Sometimes your wish comes true and he might just walk down the hall, but right now he's gone. Any further comments? Okay, we have a motion on the floor right now from Councillor Wilson. I now will call for the vote. Those in favor? That is carried. Well, your time has come to an end now. Development Officer Hill, you did very well in bringing our development permits to us. Thank you very much for your time. We're moving to page 76, please, of your agenda. Item 4E, Protective Services Quarterly Report. CAO Williams.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. And to my left, Director Andrew will lead us through his quarterly update. Justin.
Thank you, CEO Williams, and through to the chair. Providing quarter two statistics and update for protective services. We'll start with fire. And I'm reading mine from my little small device because my computer called in sick today. So looking at our general statistics, fire response in quarter two, we had 5 in the urban area, 25 medical response, 2 motor vehicle collisions, 24 false alarm responses, and 34 others, which would be citizen assists or small, not classified type response. So our overall total was 90 responses within the town of Olds, which you can see is a substantial increase from last year at 2024's numbers of 57. And our year-to-date is 159 in Olds. Our rural responses in the same quarter, fire response 6, medical response 6, motor vehicle collisions 2, false alarms 1, and other 11, and for a total of 26. So again, that is trending higher than last year, which when we speak about our overall numbers in comparison, that we are seeing increases in our call volume for 2025. And right now we are on pace to push the 500 for total call responses in the year. It's not part of this report, but we are at 305 as of today. So the numbers have been substantially busier this year over others. And that's trending at a 4-year, we're higher than average on 4 years of data. Firefighter training hours in the quarter was 1,993, and that again is higher than 2024 because we had a certified fire training course of new recruits, and we were doing some standardized testing through the fire commissioner's office, which is typical in a every 2-year cycle. So this was the year that we had heavier training. Some of the challenges in the quarter was that the busy spring wildfire season, so the Olds Fire Department was requested and provided response to wildfires in Sturgeon County, Swan Hills, and the Grand Prairie areas. So we had apparatus that were deployed there and personnel for periods of time. I don't think anybody was there for more than 7 days at any one of those deployments. I spoke to the call volume increase. Our accomplishments, we concluded our fire cadet program in the spring with great success again as it's continuing to seek interest from our high school students. We graduated 6 new full-fledged members of the fire department in June of 6 members, which I believe council was there in attendance for that ceremony. One of the big things that we're proud of is that we are seeing a reduction in the unnecessary response, such as the residential fire alarms. So we are still getting the calls, but we are not sending resources to deploy. So when I created this report last week, to date, we had 63 responses that the fire department was called for, but we did not send responders to check out because they were false alarms. So if you put that in perspective, that's 63 times that our firefighters did not have to be summoned to the fire hall from their jobs or from their homes or for bed or whatever to go to find out that they weren't required. So that's saving us a substantial amount of money, and it's also saving us a substantial amount of responder fatigue by being summoned when they're not required. So those are big accomplishments for us. We hosted our vehicle extrication symposium in June. We had approximately 60 firefighters in town for 3 days, partaking in the training here in our facility. So that's the fire wrap up. Moving over to municipal enforcement, the quick Q2 stats that we have here. Looking at our complaints from dispatch are up to 71 from 55. Incidents investigated by officers, 179 compared to 112. Wednesday seemed to be the flavor of the period for when the most things were busy for us. Traffic incidents were slightly down at 21. Community standard incidents are up to 52. Animal related up to 34 from 10. And 50 hours spent patrolling playground school zones up from 22. Again, some of these numbers do change based on the time of year. Obviously, in the spring and the early summer periods, we do see people moving about more. So there are anticipated increases in the Q2, Q3 statistics typically for us. So nothing really out of the norm to be encountered. Out of interest pieces here, when we look at our occurrence reports, we are seeing an increase up from the 133, or sorry, we're at 100 or 228 from the 133 previously. So again, there are pieces of that change with statistical reporting and the time of year. Again, when we see initiatives that are proactive as opposed to reactive, having an extra officer on duty has helped us with some of those initiated reports. So unsightly premises, backyards and streets and things like that have all been being dealt with. So that adds to those numbers. You can see the number of tickets issued, not a huge amount, but again, the biggest piece is are we working through compliance through education or legislation? And so we are working with our citizens very proactively to try to educate change as opposed to legislated through tickets. One of the challenges that we've faced in the quarter is the increase in use of the e-scooters. We're seeing a lot more of their activity within the community, and the struggle is the compliance with the users of them, such as wearing helmets and or obeying traffic bylaws. The struggle with this is that according to Alberta Transportation, e-scooters are still a prohibited vehicle to be utilized on public roadways, and so there is a challenge in trying to educate the public to that before you turn people loose riding around on electric scooters, you know, it's very dangerous and that there are higher chances of collision. So the other one is addressing unsightly grass and weed issues. Again, where we're trying to hit back alleys, this has been the big focus. There's been a lot of hidden areas where there's been a long term of neglect. So having extra resources to be able to address that certainly adds to the workload, but we are chipping away at it. We've accomplished the new body-worn cameras have been implemented, so our officers are all wearing the new cameras. The in-car technology, we have one of two units with it installed. We're just waiting for our new unit that was procured this year to have it installed. It didn't make sense to install it into a car that we were getting rid of, so we've held off on that. So hopefully in the near future we'll get it installed as well. We've integrated our new enforcement officer, and that worked quite well and quickly. We got a quick appointment through the Solicitor General, so he was able to participate in all activities as outlined in our agreement with the Solgen, so that was great. And we've started assisting Bowden with bylaw duties through contract, so our one ME officer does provide a limited amount of time to the town of Bowden for a fee for service. That was agreed upon. Emergency management, don't have any statistics to say other than we've had no major emergencies, which is a good one to report. Again, we continue to work on the recruitment and retention of staff and qualified people to fill our roles within our emergency management team. We've been trying to promote the use of the Voyant Alert mobile app, which gives a network for municipal information, including emergency alerts and or resident information for things such as street clearing for snow or road closures. We did have one use of the system earlier in the spring, or I should say early in the summer, when there was the water main break there by the hospital. We did send out a Voyant Alert notifying residents that there was a water disruption in a specific area for a period of time. We did conduct our mock exercise that was in collaboration with Mountain View County and the other jurisdictions within the county. And that was a great exercise involving a mock train derailment near the Pioneer Elevator just south of town. And what it was testing was the new implementation of the emergency social services plan that had been worked on regionally. So when an emergency happens, it's not just the emergency responders dealing with the fire and the gas leaks or the carnage of the accident. It's how do you deal with the people that are displaced as a result. So that's what this was a test of. And a lot of that plan was implemented with success. And so we were really happy with that. Looking ahead into the next Q3 for 2025 for fire, we're still maintaining our fire training facility upgrades. We've been able to procure the CCANs that we need to add on to our facility, so they're here now. We've had great success with our drone study with the University of Alberta and the development of that program. Had some great networking with other agencies. We're the small fish in the pond, but I've been doing a lot of work with the City of Edmonton and Strathcona County, who are also participants with the university. And we've been gathering data and utilizing it on emergency calls. And we've been trying to manage our call volume pressures in the summer months, especially where we know our firefighters are all trying to take summer vacations and get out and look after their own families. And so I can say that the summer is almost done and we've had no major catastrophes and we've been able to maintain service quite efficiently. So that was a win. Again, our implementation of body-worn cameras for municipal enforcement will be important for the continuing future as far as accountability and providing evidence that is used in prosecution and or disclosure to the law enforcement and justice. And again, assisting Bowdoin in finding the right mix of how much time that we can provide that municipality, yet maintain the need that we have here. Again, I think the only last one with emergency management that I didn't talk about was that we are exploring a potential of a collaborative exercise with Plains Midstream. They've expressed interest to do something with us involving their control center and what an emergency might look like for them and for us if that control center was affected. So those are things that we're working on in this quarter, and hopefully we'll report to you at the end of the Q3. So with that, any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
We'll start with Councillor Cummings, Blatz, and then Ryan. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. If we go back to page 78, the statistics page there, we'll see, and we've seen in every report you've given, the medical responses drives the stats. That's the most calls you ever get. We've talked about in the past the development of the paramedics within our department. Can I get from you a little bit of an update on the number of paramedics we have, the training we're doing, and our efforts to increase the number of paramedics that we actually have working for the fire department?
Sure. So currently right now we have 2 advanced care paramedics within the department, myself and one other who is a full-time employee of AHS EMS here in Olds. We also have 2 primary care paramedics that have employment outside of Olds for fire services. And outside of that, we have a number of advanced first aiders or medical fire responders, as they are called. And the majority of our firefighters, after they've been with the department for 2 years, are open or made available to take that training. It's an 80-hour course. And so I don't have the specific numbers off the top of my head how many we have, but I would guess probably 70% of our department is trained to that advanced first aid level. We do continue to promote that training to our members. The reality is that becoming a certified pre-hospital care provider does require a number of continuing credits or continuing education credits that cost a fair amount of money. and it also takes annual certification. So belonging to the College of Paramedics as an active member, which I do, is $425 a year. And so it's hard for people to pay that unless they're actually working in an EMS service, that it's a requirement, because it's the only license piece that's absolutely a must to work as a practitioner on an ambulance. So one of the things, if members did want to take that EMS training, we would have to look at expanding our training budget and the costs to come through for it. So right now, if there's grants available, we'll pursue them for sure. But most people that are looking to take that training are looking because they want full-time fire employment in a larger department, if that answers your question, Councillor.
Councillor Blatz?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl, and through you to Director Andrew. I'm going back to our e-scooter. Will there, or are you looking at, between the RCMP and our municipal officers, education through the school system to make our e-scooter riders and drivers aware of what the rules and regulations are and the fact that they should, for their own safety, be wearing helmets, that type of education? My apologies if you said something like that and I missed it. I was reading at the same time.
No, not at all. No, absolutely. So in September, the intent is that we were looking at doing some type of a bike rodeo type event. And so with that, is education is a big piece. So we definitely want to educate, and that's what we've been trying to do thus far. Is that, again, I don't think anybody wants a community where you have law enforcement pulling kids over and giving them tickets for activity. So that's not been the stance of the RCMP or for our municipal enforcement. If we are talking to youth, it is literally to inform them of the dangers and that what they can do to try to prevent it. But yes, we would like to move forward with, it coincides with the Alberta traffic safety notices that go out monthly, is that next time it comes around, we want to promote it wholeheartedly for sure. And schools and community events are definitely that avenue.
Go ahead, supplemental.
Thank you for that. And I think as you're probably aware, most schools, the students, there's an email address or email fan out that goes to most parents. So perhaps that's an avenue as well to let parents know that this is what we're doing, the reasons why we're doing it.
Absolutely.
So Ryan?
Thank you very much, Mayor Dahl, through you to Director Andrew. With regards to the body cams, I got a sort of a threefold question here for you, and that is, where are the recordings being kept once they start? I imagine that the recordings would be done is it push button? Is it is it 24/7 or like whenever they're wearing them? I shouldn't be saying 24/7 because they're not on the street 24/7, but whenever they put them on, is it automatically started and it goes through the whole shift, or only when they need a recording? And in particular, where do we keep these recordings, and what kind of access do people have to these recordings?
Yeah, very good. So as far as where the storage of the data goes, is so the equipment supplier that we have procured the cameras from is Axon, who is also the same camera system that the RCMP are utilizing in most police forces across the country and even North America. And so the data is kept in a secure server through their system. So the access on it is very secure and meets all of the legislated requirements that ultimately the data is kept in an encrypted server area, and the appropriate permissions can be only had to access it when you're trying to retrieve it for disclosure or whatever, whether it's going to court or however, and it also can't be modified. So that's one of the pieces that you can't go through and chop out pieces that don't suit the conversation. When it goes through disclosure through court, they do a process, and this is similar with the RCMP, where they highlight blocks of time, because a video would be continuous from the start of the interaction through to the end, and all of it may not have relevance. But what they'll do for the sake of the court is that they actually take the clippets of where conversation or dialogue or interactions occurred and highlight it. It doesn't delete anything else, it just brings that to the forefront, if you will. So as far as the policy, we do have operational policies of when the camera is recording, and essentially when the officers have them affixed to their body, they are always capturing information, both audible and visual, with the device. And so As far as the disposal of information, is that it does align with our disposal policies on data record keeping, I guess, for the organization. And again, it stays in a secure vault server, I should say, sorry, until that time where then it's automatically eliminated. And if there was ever a situation where there was a criminal element, so if there was charges for some, criminal code issue, then the court can actually request that and they receive it and then they hold it. So we don't have to keep that set with our system indefinitely, if you will. Again, because we're municipal enforcement, we're not dealing with criminal code type of things. You're not going to murders or assaults or things like that per se. It's a lot lower risk for us with that data for sure.
Mayor Dahl, supplemental? Can I do a supplemental on that?
Certainly.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that. So Director Andrew, then how long do they keep the records for? Is it a year? Is it 2 years, 5 years? I don't know.
So if we keep it right now, it's 2 years is the maximum amount of time, unless something was flagged that it's going through prosecution. So once something enters the court system, then it may be held until that is resolved. But right now, as a general rule, we don't keep anything longer than 2 years.
Thank you very much. I do appreciate them having these body cameras. I think it can protect them not just from any kind of litigation down the road, but also in the safety, reduces their risk on the street. Thanks.
Councillor Wilson?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. Through you to the director. I'd like to go back to the e-scooter, kick scooter topic. I've had a couple of residents through our coffee with council sessions mention to me concerns relative to those scooters, and particularly on the pathways and the sidewalks. You've flagged it in your report. Just wondering if you can comment. I believe largely or entirely this falls under provincial jurisdiction. So as a subject matter expert, are we close, or are we at a point, and it may be somewhat mute given that we're approaching the end of summer and so on, but are we getting to a point where this council, this administration needs to, inform, communicate with the province and go down a path of enacting some bylaws for our use specific to the town in these e-scooters? Thank you.
Yeah, so that's a really valid point and question. It is a provincial jurisdiction, and again, with our reference to the small vehicle standard that Alberta Transportation produces, indicating which types of devices are considered prohibited on roadways or streets, that is something that is in their jurisdiction. And so, of course, we as a municipality can't supersede legislation from the province. And the interesting thing with this is that, you're seeing more of these in larger centers. So the rental e-scooters in larger municipalities such as Red Deer, Calgary, Edmonton, and what have you, it appears more that the province is leaning more towards allowing them than to disallowing them. And so that definitely sends mixed messages for us, and we struggle because, to be honest with you right now, it's going to be the prosecution. So we could have our law enforcement write tickets or try to enforce the action if it were deemed inappropriate, but whether justice wants to actually pursue prosecution on those tickets is completely up to them, and it seems like that's a tough conversation to have right now as to what the public interest is. And so advocacy on the council level, if you see it to be fit to pursue, would definitely be the next step for us to have that conversation.
Councillor Ryan?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. Actually, I can sort of speak a little bit to that question as well. Alberta Munis has approached the province with regards to these scooters, and as far as I know, the province is already looking at some kind of changes in legislation with them. As we well know, the four-wheel e-scooters have already changed. There's already been a change in legislation for them, so we can enact a bylaws with regards to those. The two-wheel ones are already and have been put forward to the province. I'm not sure where it is in the level, but as a member of the infrastructure committee, I can always ask at my next meeting, which is in September 11th. So, thank you.
All right, Councillor Cummings?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. little while ago, we had our first opportunity to meet the new Minister of Municipal Affairs as well as our MLA at a meeting at the county's offices. And I had an opportunity to talk to them and bring up an item that neither one of them were very familiar with at all, and that was the mandatory life cycle renewal of fire apparatus. I know we've talked about it in the past. I believe it's 10 years for a fire truck. Is it 15 years for a fire truck? Whether it's a great fire truck or a horrible fire truck, at 15 years, we can't keep a fire truck. And it's been talked about at AB Munis a few times. It's been talked about at RMA a lot more than at AB Munis about this fire truck renewal program. I did ask them to look into it to see if it's something on their radar that they would be interested in amending or changing to maybe us knowing when our fire trucks are actually no longer viable fire trucks. A lot of times these fire trucks end up down in South America and work successfully down there for another 30 or 40 years. So is this something that as the fire chief, as the guy driving these fire trucks, can support maybe extending or making us more responsible for replacing our fire trucks at a reasonable amount rather than this mandatory 15 years?
Yeah, so right now with the life cycling of fire apparatus, it comes primarily from the Insurance Underwriters Association, and the recommendation again on the replacement of trucks, keeping your first frontline apparatus, and we're talking about a pumper truck, at 15 years or less, has an effect on your fire insurance rating in the community. And with your fire insurance rating, it comes what you actually pay as an insured person for fire. And so for residential customers, that number is a lot less than it gets to be with your more commercial and industrial accounts. And so that's one of those pieces, is that as a municipality, you're trying to keep that rating scale low to help save that money, because in a larger entity such as, you know, any of our large commercial properties or industrial, they could be paying tens of thousands of dollars a year in fire insurance. And so that's more the focus than it is that they're not suited. So in Olds, our current replacement schedule is that not all of our trucks are less than 15 years old. Our first frontline pumper truck is considered 15 years. And so what we were doing is replacing it in an offset manner, so that, you know, we were only ever buying one pumper truck, you know, in that period where, you know, it was every 7 years or whatever, that it would make sure that you always have time on either side before it hits that magic 15-year number. The big thing for us is that, yes, they can be maintained to work longer, and it's common for us is that we wouldn't dispose of an apparatus likely until it was 20 years old at least here for a frontline emergency vehicle such as a pumper or a rescue. But the one thing that we do see is that there's a fine line, is that these trucks, when they get to a certain age, our maintenance costs go through the roof on them. And it's typically as a result of the conditions that they're subject to. So our trucks look beautiful. The members take a lot of pride in keeping them looking really good, but it's the underside where it's exposed to the snow, salt, and then the constant piece where it started from cold sitting in the truck. It's ran out the door hard. You know, it's used for a very short period of time, then it's parked back in the bays and then turned off. And that kind of a lifespan on electronic equipment, it's really hard. So we do our best, and there certainly is some flexibility, what you're alluding to with the time frame for sure, but I would hesitate to extend too much longer, simply because the reliability starts to wane in the back of our mind about, you know, does it start every time it goes out of the hall or not? So.
Mr. Wilson?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. And again, through you to the director, I'm debating between one of two questions, either on your prioritization of responses to residential fire alarms or something along the ME side, and I'll go with the ME side and trust your professional opinion on the fire response. So we have the additional municipal enforcement officer. We hear occasionally, or more frequently than not, from our residents concerns about visibility around law enforcement. Can you share, without going into a lot of detail around shift schedules and everything, a little bit on how this sharing is working with Bowden, and whether it's pro bono or is there a cost share agreement? And equally, if not more important for our residents, what can they expect to see for the visibility? It's been a couple months that we've had the additional municipal enforcement officer. what do we can expect to see her on either evenings or weekends? Thanks.
Yeah, so with the third position, or our ME officer, so since I think June, middle of June, I think, sorry, I don't have the specific date, we did move to a flex schedule with them. So what we've done is that each one, two of the frontline ME officers are working 10-hour shifts now, and they're working 4 10-hour shifts in a row, followed by 4 days off. So by doing that change in the schedule, it expands their hours of operation. And we have also staggered their start, so they don't start at the same time and finish at the same time. We have one that will do a rotation that starts earlier and then finishes in the afternoon, and then the other starts midday and works later into the evening. And so the great thing about this is, and I'm hesitant to give out exact times just because it's operational pieces where if people start setting their watches by the time of our officers, then I'm sure it's the worst kept secret anyway, but nonetheless, the intent is to try to capture some of that early morning activity and some of that later afternoon, evening activity. We've also implemented with this schedule is that through the summer months is that we do have sporadic coverage on a Saturday. So one of the officers with flexing the schedule will give up a Saturday and work that day, and then obviously they take a day off in the week to counter that. And to date, I think we've had 6 Saturdays through this summer where they provided time, and during that opportunity, they're able to engage in activities and events at Rotary Park, OR Hedges, Skateboard Park and Centennial, just to look for all the different things and activities going on there. But it's also giving them more time to spend doing patrol. So it's typical now in the evening hours that, 5 o'clock, our officers working that later shift will go out and actually patrol the community. And as a result, that's what's leading to some of these increased numbers that I presented, because it gives them some dedicated time to go out and follow up and drive through some back alleys and see things that wouldn't normally be seen. The daytime hours are inherently busy with the number of phone calls and the complaints that come in through the complaint process. And so sometimes that's really a distraction when you're trying to be proactive and do that on-site visible patrol that people are requesting. But right now, the question will come up and say, well, we should work more evening hours or more weekends. And the data that we have based on the number of complaints that come in or the things that are being observed wouldn't support that would be a wise investment in money, is that we literally are not seeing the activity on a weekend, especially during the daytime. And even the activity in the evenings or late at night wouldn't substantiate moving any kind of service into there at this point. I'm not saying that it's going to be completely, for bust, but when we have special events such as Oldstoberfest, we do shift our officer schedules so that they will assist with the RCMP on the busier days or evenings to be out and be a visible presence. But those instances are definitely few and far between as far as the value for that time investment or money, if that works. I think I answered all of your question. Bowden, yes. So Bowden, the agreement is that there is some flexibility in time allotted to Bowden. And so we are working through what that fine balance is we have the need. We certainly could eliminate that service in Bowden completely, and it's not a lack of time or a lack of need here in this town. It does put us behind for sure by sending an officer to Bowden for a period of time. But what it was done was that there was expressed interest that they had a need and a desire to help with minimal assistance, and they are willing to pay fair price for it. So again, without disclosing all of our business dealings, it's covering our costs for sure, and it does help offset the cost of that extra officer on our line item budget by giving some time there. Again, as we continue to grow and as the pressures mount here, we may be forced to look at how much time we were making available for that. And the municipality of Bowden may look at it and say that they want more than what we're willing to provide. But we have a very flexible agreement. We have great people there that are very open to what this arrangement is, and everybody's quite happy with it right now.
Well, thank you very much for your presentation today. Director Justin. I would just like to close by saying congratulations on your fire cadets. 14 fire cadets graduating. Congratulations, well done. There's no further questions. I'd call for a motion, please. Okay, sorry. Okay, go ahead. Councillor Ryan.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that council accepts the Protective Services second quarter report as presented.
Very good. Thank you, Councillor Ryan. Those, I will call for the vote. Those in favor. That is carried. Very good. We will now move down to page 84 of your agenda. This is your MDP and LUB engagement, what we heard report. And Ms. CAO Williams, who will you have speak to this? Will this be the municipal planner?
Yeah, Kyle Sloan will come back in the
Very
room
good.
and walk us through this report.
Mr. Sloan,
Kyle.
welcome. And we have some administration with us also. We have Director Corporate Services Sheena Linderman here. And good, Nathan Hill back. Thank you.
Thank you again, Mayor Dahl and Council. I will present here sort of a summary of the public engagement that we've undertaken for the Municipal Development Plan Amendment and the new land use bylaw. Work on this project began in October 2024. Early in 2025, there was a public engagement or public information phase where just to let people know we were initiating the project and to stay tuned for consultation or more in-depth engagement later in the year. That phase took place through June and July. And what I have here attached is the What We Heard report that outlines what we heard in a series of different methods of engagement. A few of us staff members were at the farmers market. One day we did an in-person open house as well as a virtual open house that was all the same information but just online, that stayed open for 2 weeks for those who couldn't attend the in-person session. And then there was an online survey that stayed open for that same amount of time. Most of what I'll present tonight are the survey results. Much of the conversations we had at the open house were similar to the survey, and we had similar themes and viewpoints represented. So I'll skip forward to page 92. I will focus my discussion right now on the land use bylaw, as that is an entirely new document rather than just an amendment. And it's at all of our engagement sessions, it was the focus that residents and stakeholders were bringing to us. So there's a number of graphs beginning on page 92 that show the survey responses for the survey. Would you like me to run the mouse to go through? No? Okay. So we did ask people about accessory buildings and the numbers that we should limit per property. Most of the people agreed with the first draft, limiting that to 3. These are detached garages, garden sheds if they're over a certain size, workshops, things like this. A detached secondary suite or garden suite or garage suite would be included in this number. On the next page, actually I'll go to page 94 where we discuss secondary suites, because a lot of our conversations were about that. The first question here was about where they should be allowed. So single and semi-detached dwellings, semi-detached being what many people call duplexes, which represents what we currently allow, was the most popular response. Row housing is in there as well. We don't really have much row housing in town right now, but it is a development trend we're seeing more interest in town. So we wanted to make sure that we are using that typology as an example as well. Single detached dwellings, or they should not be allowed, would represent becoming more restrictive than we currently are. Those were not as popular. Regarding the number of suites per parcel, the majority of people said to keep it to one, which is our current regulation. We allow one suite where they are allowed per parcel, which is in all of our residential areas. Regarding the districts, we asked some questions about the changing districts, both in terms of the idea of consolidating our 27 districts down in number, as well as in this particular question, whether multi-unit dwellings should be allowed in the RTD district, which is the lowest density residential district. The plurality of respondents said they should not be allowed, and multi-dwelling meaning fourplexes, apartments, things like that. So the largest response was that they should not be allowed. 61% selected either 4, 5, or 6. These are questions, all of these are questions we would like to discuss further with council and the public directly at the public hearing, where I've been encouraging as many people as I can to attend that to discuss these questions further. Regarding the consolidation of districts, which is down on the same page on 96, we asked about that consolidation or that approach. Very split response. Obviously, a variety of opinions represented. The highest was that they agree, but just below that was that they don't agree, which is what makes my job so easy. And then finally, we want to know who was answering the survey. And on page 98, you can see 94% of the survey respondents were residents or landowners of town, because it was available for people who were looking to move here or business owners. But for the most part, the people engaging with our online survey were residents. And I'll leave it at that for now for the What We Heard report, but I will welcome any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. That was a clear report to review. Councillor Ryan?
Thank you very much, and through you to the director. I was just wondering, could you tell me, ISL's done a lot of these land use bylaws, and so they are quite familiar with how the interaction with the community should be. And I'm just wondering, is that typical to have the 2 engagements, or is there usually more than that? Like, I'm not talking about the survey online. I'm talking about the actual face-to-face. You said you went to the Cow Palace and you went to the CCC, did you? Yeah.
That's correct,
Yeah.
yes.
So you had 2 engagements. Is that typical of it, or do you feel that we have had sufficient engagement up until we have the public hearing, of course, which will be a further engagement with the community?
There's really a wide variety in terms of how engagement is handled throughout Alberta. For smaller municipalities, it is usually, I would say it's fairly typical. The attendance at the Cow Palace for the farmers market was just staff doing that on our own. And that was more to raise awareness of these other sessions. But of course, when we're there, people do want to have the conversations, and we had those then. The open house being in person and online is certainly becoming more popular, just because, not just because the online one can stay open for 2 weeks, but also because some people prefer to just engage from home. It's more flexible. They can do that open house at 3 a.m. if they want to. So it's becoming more common, yeah.
Any further questions from council? Councillor Wilson?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. Through you to the Planning and Development Officer. It doesn't really pertain to the survey, although it does. So I'll ask it anyway. Somebody can tell me I'm out of order again. But So the federal government has got a boodle of money available to spur affordable, attainable housing. Do we think, do we know, do we have concrete, and to date, to my knowledge, we have not been successful, we being the royal we of olds, have not been successful seemingly to get some of that funding, although I think we've applied. Do we know, do we think, do we have concrete evidence that we move ahead with this LUB and some of these changes and greater use of multi-unit dwelling and combining R1, R2, and RTD, is that going to open it up for some of this funding, or have we been promised, hey, do this by the federal government and funding will magically appear? Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sure the CAO might have some comment on that, but I do as well. And that is that I haven't heard anything. Yes, we've applied for both phases of the Housing Accelerator Fund, for instance. We've not been successful. This land use bylaw rewrite and the direction we've taken it up until this point has not been directed for trying to be more successful in those applications. I'm not sure if, for instance, the draft bylaw as it's represented or as it's presented in the next item is adopted. I have no idea. I can't really comment on if that would impact our chances of success in later phases of these grant applications.
Thank you. CEO Williams?
Thanks, Mayor Dahl. More specifically to Councillor Wilson's questions, I think what you're referring to is situations in like Calgary and Red Deer where certain amounts of Housing Accelerator Fund through CMHC, a federal agency, is tied to attaining certain housing goals. I believe in Red Deer was some type of minimum per lot dwelling and then a distance from Gates Avenue for higher density. The town does not have any funding of that regard. We have applied in the past for 2 CMHC programs, but there is no applications under consideration right now by CMHC. So I think where you're getting at with your question, are we doing this because the federal government wants us to? The answer is no. We're doing it because the land use bylaw is 25 years old. If you look at our town's growth in the last census period, we, upon revising numbers, some numbers are forecasting actually negative growth. So we're trying to do this to match the type of housing that the economics say people can afford to what our land use policies say. And after 25 years, that landscape has changed quite a bit. So it has nothing to do with whatever other level of government wants us to do, even though there's plenty of pressure, not just from the feds, but from the province as well to build more housing. I think we're doing a pretty good job already, but we see, as you know, as council has been through dozens of land use bylaw amendments in your 4-year term alone. I think we're over 400 amendments to this current land use bylaw. And we need to update some of the parameters, language, definitions, and zoning as well. So, but it's not tied to any other level of government.
Councillor Ryan?
Thank you, Mayor Dolan. I probably should have done this as supplemental because it's going back to the engagement. So you're saying that the engagement sort of varies from community to community. Do you feel comfortable with the amount of engagement we've had? We only had the one open house that was done by ISL, and then one from the town. And I'm not sure exactly how much feedback you got at those, but do you feel comfortable with how much engagement we've had, or do you feel that there should be more out there?
Thank you. My answer is yes, and I'll go through it in 2 different parts, really. The first is that in addition to the formal sessions, we've had people reach out to us who weren't able to attend those, and we have had subsequent meetings both with groups and with individuals. These are both developers, concerned residents that we've sat down with and had discussions with, phone calls, even up until Friday last week. So we're still engaging, even though the first draft is here today, but this is a living document. We'll always be engaging with this. The second part is that this is not just a new bylaw. It is a final iteration, we're hoping, of a series of steps we've been taking over the last number of years. We've done surveys twice for housing needs assessments that had very high response rates. Those housing needs assessments absolutely feed directly into some of the steps we've taken with this. So even though the open house and the survey were only official engagement steps for this, there have been many other unofficial ones and then previous projects that inform this one.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm happy to hear that you've had some one-on-ones, and I understand you had worked with some developers or had some conversations with the local developers. So that's good to hear that engagement is still continuing and ongoing. Thanks.
Any further questions? Seeing none, we'll move into, I would request a motion, please, for the What We Heard report. Councillor Daly, or Deputy Mayor Daly.
Thank you, Mayor Dole. I move that council accepts the municipal development plan and land use bylaw engagement What We Heard report for information.
Very good, thank you. I will now call the vote. Those in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much. We will now move down to page 100, item 5A, and this is for our bylaws for an introduction only and consideration for first reading to set a public hearing date. All right, so we'll start with bylaw 2513 for first reading. Councillor Blatt.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that bylaw number 2025-13, amendment to the Municipal Development Plan 2020-14 be given first reading as presented.
Thank you, Councillor Blatz. Do we have any questions? All right, it's just strictly for the first reading to move it forward, so I will call the vote. Those in favor? That is carried. And for first reading for 2025-14, please, is that Councillor Cummings, your hand?
Thank you. I move that bylaw number 2025-14, land use bylaw, be given first reading as presented.
Thank you very much, Councillor Cummings. I will now call for the vote. Those in favor? That is carried. And for our special council meeting for the public hearing, Councillor Walsh.
Thank you, Mayor Dole. I move that council hold a special council meeting on Monday, September 8th, 2025 at 5:30 p.m. in the lecture hall number 316 at the Workland Center at Olds College, and that this special council meeting be set as a date, time, and place for a joint public hearing on bylaws number 2025-13 and 2025-14.
Thank you very much, Councillor Walsh. I see no questions, so I'll go ahead, Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. Just a quick question through to the development officer. Can you just talk to what the process looks like? So we're here today with first reading, we have the engagement and the public hearing, and then second and third reading. Can you just talk about what we can, what we and the public can expect? Everything will go into a big pot and be stirred around, and then potential revisions to the MDP or the LUB.
Absolutely. Thank you for the question. So typically with our smaller bylaw amendments, as earlier today, we hold a public hearing that is advertised in the newspaper and on the town website for a few weeks. It's usually about a month after first reading. Now, in this case, for those smaller amendments, there's usually not as much discussion. There's a specific focus, and we can do the public hearing and second and third reading. If there's an amendment, maybe we do a quick amendment to it and do second and third reading at that meeting. We do anticipate there will be changes to this one after the public hearing. So that's where we wanted to make sure we set a public hearing that is a special council meeting where it's the only thing on the agenda. The entire focus can be on that at a larger venue. And that it's after work hours as well, which is why we chose 5:30 p.m. So it's not Monday at 1 o'clock. We really want as many people as possible to be able to attend either in person or online, because we do our public hearings virtually as well. People can call in on Teams. And then we expect there to be changes. In fact, there are already some changes we would like to discuss at the public hearing with the public and council that would be incorporated into an updated draft that we would then come forward with. I believe the next council meeting that after that it could make it to would be September 22nd is what we have in mind for second and third reading. But there should be some time in between the public hearing and those readings to make any changes that might come forward out of the public hearing.
Very good, thank you. Did we call the vote? Okay. Yeah. Councillor Walsh. Councillor Walsh has a motion on the floor. Did I call that vote? No, that's right. I didn't, because we decided to talk. It's getting to be a long day and it's hot in here. So I will now call for the vote for item number 3. All those in favor? That is carried. Thanks for your responses to our questions. I'd ask you to turn to page 102. This is business, and it's item 6A, and we're asking for a time change for the first meeting after the election for the organizational meeting. I would like a motion, please. Who hasn't made one yet? Go ahead, Dan. Or Dan.
Thank you, Mayor Dole. I move that the annual organizational meeting scheduled for Monday, October 27th, 2025 at 1 p.m. be rescheduled to 6 p.m.
Thank you. Does any council members have questions for the change? Very good. I will now call for the vote. Those in favor? That is carried. It does make more sense for those who work. You never know who's going to be back up here, and they may work. Item 6B, page 103. All right, I will be asking for separate motions for each one of these, so I'll be going down through 5 motions. Did you want to speak first? All right, Director Linderman, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. So today we are looking to establish the terms and conditions for our tax recovery sale, which will be held on October 29th at 3 p.m. in the Town of Old's Council Chambers. And as you mentioned, we will be setting the reserve bids for these properties. I do have one to note, though. We did receive payment this morning for tax roll 4326101. So that's the last one on your list. It can be removed. The other 3 are still set to go. And I would open up to any questions.
Yes, well, before we start with the first one, does anyone have questions for Director Linderman? All right, go for it, Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Dole. Through you to the Director. Just a very simple, quick question. So the reserve bids that are shown for the remaining 4 properties essentially represent the amount of tax owing, correct?
No, those are the assessment values of those houses.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
All right, there was only one question, so I would then ask for a motion, please, for number 1. Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that council establishes the terms and conditions for the tax recovery sale scheduled for Wednesday, October 29th, 2025 at 3 p.m. in the Town of Old's Council Chambers as follows. Number 1, the properties are offered for sale on an as-is, where-is basis. Number 2, the properties are offered for sale subject to a reserve bid as well as the reservations and conditions in the existing certificate of title. And number 3, payment for successful bid must be made by cash or certified check payable to the town of Olds. A non-refundable deposit of 20% is required at the time of sale, with the remaining 80% due within 10 days.
Thank you, Councillor Blatz. Does councils have any questions in that regard before I call the vote? I now call the vote. Those in favor? That is carried. And now I'd like second. Well, we'll start from the Councillor Ryan and then we'll go down.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that roll 3211700, Lot 5, Block 4, Plan 7610845, shall have a reserved bid of $276,570 for the public auction scheduled for Wednesday, October 29, 2025.
The motion is on the floor. I see no questions. I will call for the vote. Those in favor? That is carried. And Councillor Wilson?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I make the motion that roll number 3655200, Lot 38, Block 11, Plan 0213480 shall have a reserve bid of $343,080 for the public auction scheduled for Wednesday, October 29th, 2025.
Thank you very much. I see no questions. I will now call for the vote. Those in favor? Councillor Wilson, I can't see your hand, sorry. Okay, that's carried. And Deputy Mayor, you can do the last one, please.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that roll 4323800, Lot 59, Block 3, Plan 0012459 shall have a reserve bid of $459,000 for the public auction scheduled Wednesday, October 29th at 2025.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. You have a question, Councillor Wilson?
Actually, I do, yes, thank you. I got to the director and supplemental to my earlier question. So you mentioned the reserve bids are tied to the assessed value of the properties. I'll ask the question. I'm hoping I know the answer. This will cover any property tax obligations owing for each
Correct.
of these three?
Yes, so, yes, I should have said a little more there. So yeah, we sell that we have to, as a municipality, sell it at market value. And so that's the assessed value we're using. And then from that, we pay off ourselves, obviously, for the property taxes. Anybody else that has liens registered on that property would be paid out, and then the rest is given back to the homeowner.
Very good.
Need to vote.
Yeah, okay.
We haven't voted yet.
Much for your question. Now, I see no further hands, so I will now call the vote. Those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Wow, she is warm in here. That's what happens when you're facing west. Move please to page 105, item 6C, and this is request for cancellation of tax penalty. And I guess, who would you like to speak? Director Lindeman?
Thank you, Mayor. So included in your agenda package was a letter we received asking for the cancellation of tax penalties. The homeowner purchased their property in 2024 and therefore did receive a 2025 tax notice. Unfortunately, they came from another province and were unaware of the difference in tax deadlines. The letter was there for you to read. The way the motion reads is if council accepts it for information, that would be denying their request for tax cancellation.
Thank you very much. We'll get a motion on the floor, and then if council has questions, we can go from there. Who would like to make that motion? Councillor Ryan?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that council accepts for information the request for cancellation of tax penalties for roll 6011100.
I open the floor if council has any questions to this motion. Councillor Cummings.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a procedural question. So we've now put a motion on the floor that if we approve it, we do not accept the tax. But if we don't approve it, we don't do anything. we then have to put another motion on the floor. Am I reading that procedurally correct? Because in my mind, that we should have maybe done this a little bit differently so we don't have to do a second motion in case we deny it, right? That would be the normal thing, that we deny it or we'd accept it, and then the no vote would have a purpose. In this case, the no vote doesn't have a purpose. So that's just a procedural question I was a little shaky on. But clarified for me, thank you.
Is council clear? All right, very good. Thank you for your comments. I will now call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much. And thank you for your question. Page 107, please. We are now at council reports. Administration has a new form for us to do council reports, which is electronic, and we've received reports in the agenda from Councillors Blatz, Deputy Mayor Daley, Councillor Ryan, Councillor Wilson, and myself as mayor. So I will start by asking Councillor Cummings and Councillor Walsh, starting with Cummings for a report, please.
Point of order, Mayor. According to the policy, these should be written reports. I would like to see the written reports. I do not want to hear them. I would suggest that Councillor Walsh and Councillor Cummings provide written reports for the next council meeting, as according to the policy.
That is a point, and I'll let Councillor Cummings speak. I mean, the period was, last time we met was July 14th, so there was quite a lot of activity that could have been done.
Point of order, Mayor. Can't debate point of order, number one. Number two, this policy has been in place for a lot longer than the last committee meeting, council meeting.
Councillor Cummings?
Thank you. I'm not going to read a report. I have submitted a written report. Unfortunately, I missed the deadline, so it is in the hands of the legislative clerk, and she will add it to the minutes, I believe, is our conversation, so it will be presented to the public in the next meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, and for the next time, you'll go a little sooner than that. And what happened, did you do the same, Councillor Walsh?
No, I haven't done the same. I guess we could say shall or should. I read it as should, so it's not mandatory. But if you don't want to hear it, I'm happy not to speak to it. Basically, it's the same as everybody else's report. I attended all the similar meetings. I guess I would report over the period that we weren't in council. Most of my committees also didn't have a meeting. Mostly it was dealing with citizens who were interested in our naturalization process.
Okay, I will take that as a lesson learned from what I'm hearing around the table today, and our legislative clerk is very clear that these are to be done electronically and on time for the future. Can I have a motion, please? Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that the correspondence and information report ending oh, sorry, I think I'm on the wrong one here. Let me get back to the right one. I got it here right away. Technology is a wonderful thing until you don't use it right. Okay, I move that the reports from council boards, committees, and commissions ending August 25th, 2025 be received for information.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Daley. I will now call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried. Okay. Moving to page 117, this is correspondence and information. From the correspondence and information that you've received, council members, do you have any questions to any of the items, regarding any of the items? If not, I will entertain a motion. Councillor Wilson?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I make the motion that the correspondence and information report ending August 25th, 2025 be received for information.
Thank you. Was there a question, Councillor Blatz, or were you going to make a motion? Thank you very much. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor Judy. I have a question in regards to the, what do they call it on here? The Canadian Community Building Fund of the correspondence says we were allocated $609,323. Was that a sum that was already planned for in our budget planning? Or was this something over and above what we've already planned for?
No, that was already planned for in our budget. It is about 20,000 more than what I had anticipated, so there's a little win in there.
Excellent, thank you very much.
But the council may recall the name changed. It used to be called the federal gas tax. So it comes from the feds through the province to us. So it changes slightly every year based on the allocation Ottawa gives the province. So this year it was slightly more than we had budgeted for, which is good news.
Thank you for explaining that. Unfortunately, I typically get these letters almost a month late all the time, so I'm sorry for the lateness of it. Did you have a question? Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I just wanted to point out and highlight for anybody who's listening on page 124 of the agenda, the open house here at the Olds Municipal Center on September 9th from 1 to 3. So I want to encourage people to come and tour the building, to the facility.
The new Olds Municipal Center, where we're sitting right now. Thank you. Okay, we have a motion made by Councillor Wilson. I will now call for the vote. Those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. And page 126 at this time will be our CAO report and action list. CEO Williams, please.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. So my report mostly consists of what is on the screen right now, a report problem summary current to the end of July 2025. As council can see, year over year, we continue to see an increased usage in reporter problems, which is encouraging, as it's a software-driven system that has a lot of opportunity for us to better track how complaints and issues are received and action through the organization. So in the last month or so, I'll zoom in here. As is common this time of year, parks, green spaces generally receive the highest number of concerns, requests, and issues, followed by roads and utilities, and then miscellaneous breaking out the rest. So we continue to encourage citizens to use Report a Problem, which is located on our website, mobile or on your desktop, laptop. Action item, the only outstanding list from the action items, so zoom in again, is this item coming up on September 8th, which was a notice of motion from Councillor Cummings to create a rule regarding fixing of signs to town property. So we are just liaising with Fortis, Alberta on this, and we have received their comments back, so we will bring a report to the next council meeting. Outside of that, there is a item left over from I just got from planning. See if I can make this work. There we go. Close enough, eh? So regarding the development permit that was turned down for the driveway with variance, Nathan just got back to me and requested a council update that motion, replace it with the motion on the screen. The reason being that should that applicant decide to appeal council's decision, which is their right to the SDAB, council has to give a rationale for that. And the rationale wasn't fully known until council had their fulsome discussion. So what I asked council to do, just to cover our bases, is that you pass this following motion, rescinding the previous one for development permit 25-128. Is that clear-ish?
So you're going back to item 4A on your agenda, development permit DP 25-128. That's the 4638 51st Street, the multiplex with the variance for the driveway width.
Correct.
This is the motion that we're being asked. I wonder what's the best way to do that? Just
Mhm.
rescind it?
Yeah, right. So I would say,
I would say
yeah,
rescind.
rescind the previous motion and pass this motion. It can be done in two motions if you think that's neater, for sure.
Does council accept that? Is there consensus to accept this? Okay, then I would ask who would like to do the first motion for rescind with this motion? I think we only need one. Councillor Blatz? Oh, yeah, it was Councillor Blatz. Oh.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that council rescinds our previous motion related to development permit DP 25-128. Is that good?
It should be good enough, and then we'll go with the new one. And we will now vote on rescinding the motion. No further questions? All right, I ask for the vote. Those in favor? That is rescinded. And who would like to go ahead and put the motion on the floor? As is. Okay, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that council refuse development permit 25-128 for the following reasons. That in the opinion of the Development Authority, the proposed variance would unduly affect the amenities of the neighborhood.
Thank you. Council's in agreement. I'll call for the vote. Those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. To the agenda.
And Mayor, also that concludes my CO report. Nothing further to add. Happy to take any questions you have on this report or otherwise.
Does council have any questions for our CEO Williams? Very good. Well, I'm happy that you've concluded your report. I will ask for a motion to accept the report, please. Thank you. We'll just move forward as we're planning with council to back. Okay, now where are we? Okay, I'm on page 126, CEO report and action list. I would ask for motion. It looks like we've got Councillor Ryan, please.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that the Chief Administrative Officer report be accepted for information.
Very good. We have the motion on the floor. Those in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much. And thank you for that report and administration for attending. I am going to be asking now for a motion, please, to move into a closed session. Go ahead, Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I make the motion that the council go into closed session at 3:33, sorry. It's been a long afternoon. At 3:33, item 1, Access to Information Act, ATIA, Section 19, disclosure harmful to business interests of a third party, and Section 29, advice from officials concerning a land sale update. Item 2, Access to Information Act, Section 19, disclosure harmful to business interests of a third party, board update. And item 3, advice from officials, aquatic center service level.
I'd like to ask the CEO if we could add one more item, please. The ICC.
All right, yes, sorry. This morning we had our ICC meeting with Mountain View County. So if we could add a fourth item under Section 16, harmful to business interests or harmful to intergovernmental relations. ICC committee update.
I'm agreeable with that friendly amendment as stated by the CAO.
Thank you very much.
Point of order. Just a clarification on the parliamentary procedure here. When we're adding an item to the agenda, do we not have to have a separate vote to add an item to the agenda once the agenda has already been set, 2/3 the membership of the council? So we should have a vote, in my opinion, on adding the item to the agenda at this point that needs to be passed by 2/3 of the council, and then add it to the agenda, then do the closed meeting motion separately. That's in the new land use or the new procedural bylaw procedures we passed a little while ago. I just want to make sure we're following the new rules.
You are correct. We have got a lot of downloading and changes from the government, so you are correct. Go ahead, Councillor Cummings.
I believe that I can put a motion on the floor to add this item to the agenda with a motion already on the floor because of the procedural nature of the bylaw. So I move that we add a fourth item under Access to Information Act, Section 16. I don't have my cheat sheet handy. For an issue harmful to intergovernmental governments, to discuss the recent ICC meeting.
Thank you. I will then call for the vote to the motion. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you, Councillor Cummings. Do we have to do another one? Yeah.
At this point, I believe that Councillor Wilson can make his friendly amendment to add this to the agenda item in his motion. Yeah, and then we could just vote on that motion.
We're going to vote on Councillor Wilson's motion then. All in favor for the friendly amendment? Thank you. We will be moving into a closed information session. When council goes into a closed session, are we live? Yeah. For continued participation in the virtual council meeting, stay online in the live stream meeting platform, and the meeting stream will be replaced by a graphic. When the graphics are removed, that will indicate that the meeting is ready to reconvene. Thank you very much.
Mayor, do I want to take a 10-minute recess?
So we can take a 10-minute recess. Thank you.
Thank you.
Some water, folks. Get some water. Welcome back. We have reconvened to our regular council meeting, and we will now rise and report, and I will call on Councillor Cummings for item 1.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that we accept for information the CAO's update on town real estate.
Thank you, Councillor Cummings. I will call for the vote. Those in favor? That is carried. I will now call on item 2, Councillor Ryan, board update.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that council accept board update for information.
Thank you, Councillor Ryan. I will call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Item number 3, I will call on Deputy Mayor Daly, Aquatic Center.
Thank you, Mayor Dole. I move that the council accept the update of the Aquatic Center service level for information.
Very good. I will now call for the vote. Those in favor? That is carried. And finally, item number 4, Intermunicipal Cooperation Committee, Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that council accept for information the ICC update.
Thank you. I will call for the vote. Those in favor? That is carried. And once again, thank you for your time if you've returned and our first meeting in the new facility. And I close the meeting at 4:35 p.m. Thank you. I adjourned.